Am I the asshole for ignoring the groomsman? Plus update, original post. This happened at a wedding I was a bridesmaid at a few weeks ago. I am 35. I have never been married, have no kids, and more than likely will be the last of my friend group to get married. I've been a bridesmaid too many times to count. Almost always, I get paired off with another single guy. My family and friends treat this as an attempt to hook me up with another single guy. They think it will be so romantic if we tell our grandkids who we met at a wedding. I've never been interested in these guys. At the last wedding I was at, I was paired off with the groom's 42-year-old stepbrother. Off the bat, I wasn't interested in Dave. If I were to see his profile on a dating app, I would immediately swipe left back to this wedding. I got through the ceremony and am now at the reception. I ran into some old friends I haven't seen in a long time and didn't know they would be in town. So we spent the night together, catching up and covertly watching a VEG game someone was streaming on their phone. The bride came up to me and asked if I wanted to sit with Dave. He was alone at a table and wanted to get to know me better. I told her, sorry, I wasn't interested, and went back to talking with my friends. If Dave wanted to talk to me, well, he's a grown man and can do it himself. I spent the night hanging out with my friends, having a great time, and didn't think much of it until a few weeks later. I see the bride at a party, and she doesn't even greet me. She just tells me that I was a B for ignoring Dave. Apparently, he thought I was cute and wanted to get to know me better. He just couldn't because he struggles with social cues. At least I could have just seen him for a few minutes and been nice to him. First off, I am sick of being nice just to make a man happy. I told her that I was just there to be a bridesmaid, not to be a minder for a middle-aged man. She still called me out for being a rude, stuck-up B. Was I the asshole, or was the bride being out of line? One more thing, a few months before the wedding, I started to see a guy I met at a conference. I never told anyone because I wasn't sure if the relationship would last at the time. I don't plan on telling anyone until we hit a milestone because there would be some pushback. It's an international ledger. Even if I was single, I'm still not interested in Dave. Comments OP replies before reading the update. Indeed, you are not, nor should have been, a minder for a middle-aged man. If Dave thought you were cute and wanted to spend time with you, he could have opened his mouth and said so. Imagine if you ended up dating or marrying Dave, then you could be his social coordinator and hand holder, possibly for the rest of your life. Doesn't that sound like a plan? S, if you had been told being on a date with Dave was the bride's expectation of you, as a member of the bridal party, you could have saved yourself some money and time and excused yourself from the whole event, not the asshole. Reply from OOP. If I had known I would have to babysit an underemployed 42-year-old man who was twice my size, I would have dropped out of bridesmaid detail and then retired from the position. OOP was deemed not the asshole. Now for the update. Hello. I made a post about a year ago about a wedding I was at where I ignored the groomsman who wanted to hook up with me. It didn't get much attention, but the comments were pretty life-affirming. I've been going through a pretty hard time for a few years now. It's frustrating to see your friends find that one and settle down while you're struggling to navigate your 30 alone, especially when you're from a family and a part of the country where if a woman isn't married with kids by a certain age, something must be wrong with her. My family and friends mean well, but they don't always see how their actions hurt me. Dave did try to reach out to me after the wedding, but I just blocked him. I haven't seen him since, nor do I care to know what he's up to. I stopped talking to the bride. I really didn't appreciate the name calling or being expected to babysit a middle-aged man. Anyway, I wanted to update this story so I can close out that part of my life. After the wedding, I just made it clear to everyone. I'm done being a bridesmaid. I am officially retired. If you're getting married, good for you. I'm not going to be a bridesmaid. Not even for an all-expenses-paid bachelorette trip to Cancun. I think the fact that I was getting drunk and watching a hockey game with friends at the reception said it all. I'm just burned out from going to too many weddings. That retirement became official over the summer. I had mentioned that I was in a ledger. It didn't work out, but it did introduce me to a pretty big career opportunity. I spent a pretty big chunk of 2024 applying for this gig, waiting to see if I got hired, and when I did, close out my life in America. I'm now living in Australia at a job I love and being able to be my own person. I cut my hair, I got some tattoos, I found a hobby I love. I have new friends who run on the same vibe. I don't think I'm going to get married. If I do, that's great. But at my age, I don't think kids are in my future anymore. And you know what? I'm starting to accept it. My family doesn't, but I have siblings, so my parents can spoil them. I think I just needed to get away from a really restrictive place in order to find my own happiness. Thanks, guys. I really needed this advice in my life. Still love Vec, and now I can rep for them from down under. Story 2. Me, 32, female, posted on Facebook about Santa Claus not being real. My niece, 13, female, is a Facebook friend and is now devastated. Sister 36 female is furious with me. Original post. I can't believe I even need to post this, but here we go. I posted the Ryan Reynolds Deadpool meme where he tells kids about sex and says how Santa isn't real. My niece, who just turned 13, has a Facebook account that is about a week old. I honestly forgot I even had her as a friend. My sister called me furious. Apparently, she had to come clean to both my nieces. The other one is 11, and now they are so upset they couldn't go to school today. I told her I thought she had told them for years about Santa not being real, but I still felt bad and apologized. She says that isn't good enough and that I need to publicly say how Santa is real and provide proof to my nieces how I believe Santa is real. I refuse. I think they are far too old to still believe in Santa. My mother and father sided with my sister, saying I shouldn't ruin my niece's Christmas, FFS March, and take away their childhood prematurely. I feel like I'm in a crazy town. I just sent an email saying I am sorry the incident happened and that my nieces are hurting, but that I am not going to pretend Santa exists because I feel that is an unreasonable request. My parents have said they are disappointed with me, and my sister said until I agree to lie about Santa that she is going no contact. Am I wrong that 13 and 11 is a fine age to stop believing in Santa? I get that they are all upset, but isn't this an inevitable part of growing up? Usually my family is reasonable, so I'm a bit shocked about this, all honestly. My sister and her family aren't even Christian. Yes, I know Santa isn't a Christian thing, but Christmas is a Christian holiday. We never really made a big deal of Christmas beyond eating good food and opening a few gifts. Did it. So my niece sent me a text from school asking why her mom was mad at me. I said it was over the whole Santa thing, and she said that's stupid. Who still believes in Santa? So yeah, I called my sister out on this whole BS situation and for making up lies to try and make me feel bad. She called my parents crying. So my parents told me their standard line of having me be the bigger person and patch things up. Not this time. I told them to quit sticking their noses into an argument that has nothing to do with them. But honestly, I am so pissed they can all fuck off for a while. I'm not responding to anyone unless I get an apology. Edit 2, Crazy Town. Sister, I can't believe you responded to your niece after I told you not to talk to her. It's disrespectful to me. Me? You mean you were just upset you got caught in a lie? Sister, it wasn't a lie. It was a justified exaggeration to prove a point. Me, what fucking point? Sister, that your words and actions on Facebook have consequences. Me, let me get this straight. You won't let me talk to nieces because I posted a meme about Santa not existing, even though they don't believe in Santa anymore. Sister, what if they were younger? Me, they aren't. What the fuck kind of logic is that? Sister, I can't talk to you when you're being unreasonable and refuse to see the point. Me, okay, good luck with that. When you are ready to apologize, you can send me a message. Sister, what the fuck do I have to apologize for? I don't even know why you're upset when I'm the only one with the right to be upset here. Me, figure it out. Edit 3, this isn't normal behavior for my sister. I reached out to my brother-in-law and he says he's been concerned the past few days. It's been like a switch was flipped and she started acting nuts. He's going to make her an appointment with their doctor. It might just be stress, but it never hurts to check it out. Comments OP replies before reading the update. Lonnie Lee 3. Your sister is having difficulty with her daughters growing up. If the kids really still believed in Santa, then she has been keeping them ignorant, innocent to a degree that borders on abusive. Do the girls know the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy aren't real either? Your parents are enabling your sister's weirdness. I guess you could post that, yes, Virginia, there's a clause letter, but I surely wouldn't do anything more than that. Your sister should be more worried about the 13-year-old finding a baby in the Cabbage Patch than leaving milk and cookies for a man in a red suit. OOP. The weird thing is my sister is a very sex-positive parent. My nieces know all about sex birth control and stuff like that. So sex is okay when they are ready for it, but Santa Claus not being real is a horrible thing. Now, for the update. To summarize the last post, I posted a Ryan Reynolds meme about Santa Claus not being real on Facebook, which my 13-year-old niece saw. My sister flipped out about it and wanted me to publicly rescind and say how Santa is real, but I thought my nieces were too old to believe in that stuff and refused. It led to a crazy fight between us. Link to the original. Anyway, I talked to my nieces and neither of them believed in Santa, so they were baffled about the fight. I talked to my brother-in-law and he said my sister has been flying off the handle lately. We agreed she should probably get a checkup and he convinced her to go to the doctor. On to the update. They did a MRI and nothing showed up. Then they did some blood work, which looked fine, except some elevated cholesterol. She isn't pregnant. They pretty much wrote her off as a crazy person and sent her to a psychologist for stress. After a session, the psychologist told her to do some deep breathing and sent her away as fixed. She got worse. She stopped sleeping and barely ate, yet still gained weight. Any small annoyance would send her into a rage. Commercials were making her so upset, she would ugly cry. I asked my brother-in-law if they tested hormone levels or anything like that, and he said the doctors didn't feel it was necessary. She called me one day crying and apologizing, saying she was the worst sister ever and I had every right to hate her. She was so devastated she ruined our relationship and such. It was weird and not my sister, so when I got a chance to speak, I told her she was going to go see my doctor and I wasn't taking no for an answer. I set up an appointment and my doctor ordered a full blood panel, including hormones and vitamins, before my sister drove to town for her appointment. When my sister drove up, we spent the morning shopping and she was unpredictable. One minute she was happy and the next yelling about some perceived sight. That fucking pretentious makeup counter bitch just looked at me funny for my cheap drugstore makeup. It was uncomfortable, so I just walked on eggshells to keep her from exploding. Anyway, results of the blood work and a good doctor, perimenopause. Her hormones are completely abnormal. None of her doctors would even consider it because she was too young for menopause, so they didn't even bother running the tests. She'll be coming up with a care plan with my doctor for hormone replacement therapy and diet change to hopefully get back on track. She is still a nutcase right now. For example, she called me crying the other night because she will never have more kids. What? Her husband had a vasectomy years ago. I'm driving to her place next weekend, and we're going to batch cook a bunch of meals for her new diet plan. I'll be doing it with her as I could stand to eat healthier. So it'll be a slow process, but we have a diagnosis and plan. I'm just taking her out versus crazy hormones right now because it'll take a while to even out. I got her a dark chocolate cake for Easter that said, "Happy reverse Easter when the Easter bunny takes back your eggs," because I'm kind of a jerk. She thought it was hilarious though, so we are good. Edit, remove the comment about being bipolar. Though my sister-in-law has professionally diagnosed bipolarism and does have wildly swinging moods within minutes sometimes, though usually a manic high or low. Last week's wasn't my intention to slur a group of people. My sister was acting very much like my sister-in-law can act sometimes, so it was the best reference I could make. I apologize for offending anybody. Comments OP replies. Shakate29. I got her a dark chocolate cake for Easter that said, "Happy reverse Easter when the Easter bunny takes back your eggs," because I'm kind of a jerk. She thought it was hilarious though, so we are good. This is the best thing ever. So glad you figured it out. Good for you for realizing she was totally out of whack and helping her get back on track. Good luck. OOP. Well, like I said, it wasn't abnormal for a teenage sister. She was a huge drama queen back then. It was abnormal for 36-year-old sister. I guess she's just sensitive to hormone fluctuations. Story 3. I found out the actual reason my mom lost custody of me, and I don't know if I can ever look at her again. Original post. I was removed from my mother's care by DEFs when I was 11 years old due to allegations of CSA posed against my stepfather. He was convicted of those crimes, but took a plea deal, which meant he'd be out by the time I was 13. And from what I can remember, I don't even know that he served those 2 full years anyway. I was his primary victim. I don't remember how old I was when it started, but the earliest he admitted to was when I was 8. I don't know if my mom knew before DEFs got involved or if she found out afterwards. But now I don't think it would have mattered to her if she was aware. After being put into temporary custody of the state while the legal issues were sorted out, eventually I was placed with a relative and her husband, who later adopted me when it was clear my mother wouldn't be getting me back. My adoptive parents put me in therapy, got me the help I needed, did everything they could to make me feel safe again. Something they never prevented me from was speaking to my mother. I was always able to call or text her, and she was always allowed to come visit me, but I could never go and see her. I didn't really question it as a kid. I assumed it was some stipulation the courts made. I believed growing up that the reason my mom hadn't gotten me back was because of neglect, I guess. I assumed that the court thought it was partly her fault that I had been left unattended with that man so often, or that it took someone else noticing I was physically injured for something to be done about it. My adoptive parents never challenged these assumptions I had, and they always told me that they would never stop me from having a relationship with my mom so long as that's what I wanted. Once I turned 18, my mom and I started talking more frequently, but we didn't see each other in person often. I never really thought much of it at first, but as the years went by, I started questioning the circumstances of my removal and subsequent adoption. I was confused as to why a woman with no prior issues with the law would have had her child taken from her in such a cut and dry way. I decided to ask my adoptive parents about it, and they very gently informed me that my mother was told that in order for her to regain custody of me, her husband, my abuser, would be required to leave the home and could not under any circumstances come near me, not only because he was an offender, but because I was the victim. My mother evidently could not meet these conditions, and so I was adopted by my relatives. When I worked up the courage to ask my mom if it was true, she didn't deny it. She told me she loved him, that he was a good man who made a mistake. They said that she could have her daughter or she could stay with her husband, and so she chose him. She picked him over me. I don't even know what to do with the things I'm feeling now. I feel sick just thinking about it. She's my mother, and she knew what he did. He was convicted of sexually abusing her 11-year-old child, and she refused to leave him. For the past 12 years, she has willingly slept in a bed next to the man that assaulted her daughter. She has stayed married to the man who hurt me. My adoptive parents said they were advised by the therapist to let me figure it out in my own time, as my mother, despite picking that man over me, never made any move to have me near him again. She just wasn't willing to make him leave so that I could be with her. Evidently, the therapist thought it would be more detrimental in the long run to keep me from communicating with my mother entirely. None of that makes me feel better. The past 2 days have felt like a nightmare. I don't understand how she could stay with him. I don't understand why she chose a monster over her child. I'm trying to understand why my adoptive parents didn't tell me, but to be honest, I don't really understand their reasoning either. My mom has been texting me, but I haven't answered. I can't even think about her without feeling nauseous or so angry I want to cry or both. My adoptive parents keep checking in on me, but I've only answered the phone for them because I don't want them to drive here out of concern. I really don't even know what to do anymore. Now, for the update. Hello, I guess I wanted to write a little bit of an update. I didn't expect that many people to see the post. Honestly, I just needed to vent, and I didn't want to dump any of that on my friends or family. And I had a therapy session earlier in the week, so I was able to bring this revelation up to my therapist, and we're going to work on ways to help me through processing this. That's obviously something that's going to take time, but I'm sure eventually I'll find a way to live with it, I guess. Right now, I still don't know how to unpack any of the feelings I have about this. I do understand why my adoptive parents went about it the way they did. In the moment, being given that information was just a lot to comprehend, deal with, and I felt betrayed. Not necessarily by them, but I think I did put some of those feelings onto them. That wasn't really fair, and I did try to apologize, but they aren't upset with me for it. And they felt I didn't have anything to be sorry for. They know firsthand how difficult this is for me, and they told me they were already expecting the reaction I had. My adoptive mom said that if she had been in my shoes, she would have been upset too, even if that feeling wasn't entirely directed at the right people. I did speak to them about how I felt, and I asked if they could tell me a little more about why they decided to handle it the way they did. They said that when they got custody of me and saw all the ways the trauma from my earlier childhood manifested, they wanted to do everything to make sure I would be able to grow up as cared for and well-adjusted as possible. When the therapist encouraged them not to tell me the truth or challenge my belief that I'd been removed from my mom because of neglect, they followed that advice. The doctors and my parents thought it best for me to understand my mother's choice on my own. They said that I had already been failed by so many adults in my life that were supposed to protect me, and that they didn't want to add to that list. My adoptive dad also mentioned wanting me to be able to enjoy at least part of my childhood without something like that revelation hanging over my head, which, looking back at all of it, I really appreciate. I don't remember much of my childhood up until I was put into my adoptive parents' custody, and what I can remember isn't great, but the childhood they gave me made up for that in spades. I know the choices my adoptive parents made for me were made with my best interest in mind. I love them, and I know everything they did was out of love for me too. I feel like people misinterpreted what I was saying in my last post about my feelings towards them, so I just wanted to clarify that part of it. Regarding my mother, I essentially told her that I wasn't interested in speaking again, given everything I know now. I don't know how she took it because I've since blocked her number. My parents have agreed to reiterate that message for me if she contacts them, but I don't think she will. I'm never reaching out to her again. I can't do it. I think part of me is always going to be wondering why she did the things she did, but based on all the answers she's given to my questions so far, I'm not sure her honesty would be very helpful to me in the long run. Thank you for your words of encouragement and kindness. I really needed them at that moment, and I truly appreciate you all for it. Top comments. Commenter 1, proud of you. I'm glad everything worked out. Keep your mom out of your life. Commenter 2, wow, you are strong. Your adoptive parents are great people. They did it out of love and what other experts thought was the right decision. Your bio mom doesn't seem like a good person.